Hi, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
You are a horror story writer. I was looking a little bit earlier at the Amazon page, and I know you got your latest one you want to talk about, and we will get to that and to the other two if you're interested. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, a little bit about your past, and how you got to the point where you were writing these books?
Okay. Well, my name is Mark Allen, and I write primarily in the horror genre. I was born in a very small town in East Texas in 1961. I grew up, graduated in 1980, um, wanted to go to college, but didn't have the money for it. And financial aid was not the big thing that it is nowadays. And my father made it very clear that he was not going to pay for college. And so I joined the military because they had educational benefits. And I joined the Navy, became a Navy Hospital Corpsman. Um, I became a Fleet Marine Force warfare specialist, which means I was out there with my boots in the sand with Marine Corps combat units doing pretty much everything that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I retired in 2001. And what happened, there was a seminal moment in 1995. I'm going to backtrack just a little. I was going through a divorce and I was looking for a new direction. What was I going to do with my life from this point forward? And I asked myself, well, what did I enjoy doing as a kid? Well, I enjoyed writing. I had gotten really good grades in grade school and in high school whenever we had to do English composition and that kind of thing. And I was really, really, really big into short stories when I was a kid. I would spend my summers sitting at home in my bedroom typing away on a manual Underwood typewriter that my grandfather had given me. And that went on all the way up through the time I joined the military. Now, once I got in the military, you don't have time for that kind of thing. The job is a complete, total immersion kind of thing. Um, but flash forward to 95, and I'm like, well, I want to get back to writing again. And through a series of circumstances, I wound up learning how to write feature film screenplays. And I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and read and read and read and read other screenplays.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, um, I've actually been involved with a couple of films that saw the light of day. I'm on
Great.
IMDb.
Oh.
I'm the 25th Mark Allen. It'll say Mark Allen, and then in parentheses, it'll be XXV. That's me.
All right.
And I wrote, produced, and directed a no budget horror film called Delirium that was shot out in the desert to the east of San Diego.
Interesting.
And
Wow.
I thought I was on my way. I thought I was going to be a low budget Roger Corman type filmmaker. That's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to make Oscar winners. I wanted to make genre films that would sell like crazy on DVD. I didn't care about the awards. I wanted to make the money. But anyway, um, the financial crash happened in 2008, and all the investors in my next picture pulled out. And one thing led to another, and I had to take that script and sell it in 2011 to get it made into a movie. And that movie's called Early Grave, and it's still out. You can find it on Tubi, and you can rent it, I think, for like $1.99 or something on Amazon Prime. Jump ahead a few years later, 2014 comes around, and I get diagnosed with a stage 4 throat cancer. Well, stage 4 is always bad no matter what it is. But if you have what they call a head or neck stage 4, ooh, buddy, chances are you need to start getting your affairs in order, if you know what I mean. And they gave me a 23% chance of making it to 1 year. And in just a few months, I will have made it 10 years since my diagnosis.
Wow.
So
Good for
when
you.
I was
Good for you.
really, really bad and I was losing just, tons of weight, and I'm laying there thinking, man, this is it. I survived Saddam Hussein. I survived Muammar Gaddafi. I survived the drug cartels in Central America. I've done all of that. And it's going to be a 2 millimeter diameter cancer that takes me out. And the irony of that was not lost on me. That this tiny, tiny little thing that I could not fight by myself was going to take me out. And I had promised myself that I would never write a vampire story or a zombie story unless I had a completely different hook. I had to have something to give me a new approach to it. And I kind of started thinking about my own death and, what part of me would survive after death. And you think, well, I sure hope love survives. And that was it. Just like that, I had the story. It came to me all at once. A vampire who, out of love, has watched over his descendants over the decades. But because of a promise that he made to his lady love back in the day, he can never get too close to them. They can never know who he is or what he is. He has to stay away because of a promise that he made. And I set the thing in San Diego, a city that I knew very, very well. I lived there for, 35 years. And I just made San Diego itself as much of a character as anything else.
Mm.
And I blended two of my favorite genres, horror and film noir. I created a vampire that would be like if Humphrey Bogart had ever played a vampire in any of those old detective movies that he did back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
That would have been it. That would have been him. So I patterned my vampire.
Cool.
My vampire was inspired by Humphrey Bogart. And I wrote a tale about undercover police officers and the international drug trade and all kinds of stuff. And the vampire winds up getting involved in all this, and merry mayhem ensues. That was my first book. That's Nocturnal. The second book I wrote was up here where I live in northwestern Washington State now. My lifelong favorite classic monster has always been the werewolf. But I had to ask myself, what kind of werewolf story could I do that, like Nocturnal, was not like every other single werewolf book out there? I don't want my monsters to just be, caricatures of the boogeyman. I don't want them to be cardboard cutouts. They have to be either flawed heroes, flawed anti-heroes, or villains who may have some regrets about things that they are doing or things they have done, because then that makes them relatable to your audience. Now, you don't want them to feel bad if the guy gets bumped off, but you want there to be some emotional depth there. And so I figured out how to do that. I figured out how to make my book unique, how to approach the entire mythos from a different direction.
Mm.
And that book released to glowing reviews and very strong sales, especially for an indie author like myself. I don't have a traditional publisher with a marketing department, and they don't pay to send me out on press junkets or book signing tours.
Right, right.
I'm in the driver's seat on all of it, which is both a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. The third book, the book I have out now, is Just Before Dawn, and it's a sequel to Nocturnal, and it is a book that I had never intended to write. When I wrote Nocturnal, I was convinced that I was writing a standalone novel. That's what I thought at the time. And I wanted to get that done and out of the way so I could move into my werewolf story, because that's going to be a 3-book series. It's going to be a trilogy. And I had planned that from the start. The problem was everyone kept saying, can't wait for the next book to come out. Can't wait to see the next vampire story. Can't wait to see the next installment. And I'm like, there is no next installment. And people even kept writing to me personally saying, well, what happened after that? What happened after? What happens next? What happened next? What happened to them? And so finally, somewhere inside this thick bonehead skull of mine, the light went on. Ding. And it was like, they're demanding a sequel, whether I want to do it or not. Ignore your audience at your own professional peril. So I went back to the first book, read it again. I hadn't read it in a number of years, and started pulling bits and pieces and characters from there. I got all of the characters that survived the first novel are in the second one. Obviously, my lead and the key support cast and all that. And I brought 2 very, very minor characters. I mean, it's what people like you and I would call throwaway characters.
Right.
They're just in it for like 1 or 2 scenes and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I brought them into the new book and I made them main characters, where the structure of the book would fall apart without them in it.
Mm-hmm.
And as this book ends, my vampire decides, for some reasons that are explained in the book, he decides that it's time to move on to a different city to explore new horizons, that kind of thing. He's ready for a change in his life. I mean, guy's only been alive for like 135 years. Every once in a while you want to change. So he does indeed decide to move up here to Northwest Washington State. And he's going to show up as a very minor character in my werewolf series. He and my main werewolf, my hero, know each other, and they've known each other for about 70 or 80 years. And they're somewhere on that border between being friendly acquaintances and being true friends. That's where their relationship is. And it's going to be fun to explore that relationship in some of the future novels that I'm going to write.
Mm-hmm. So you're planning to make this a series of sorts?
Yes. The werewolf series, he's going to show up. Book 1 is already written. That was Blood Red Moon. He's going to show up in book 2, and he's going to, just to be introduced more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going to have a major role to play in the 3rd werewolf book.
Okay.
And then whether or not I write another novel that features him, another nocturnal novel, I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, but I have enough of the surviving characters out of Just Before Dawn that I can always figure something out,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
Even though he's up here, I can always figure something out.
Yeah. And these characters, these very fictitious characters, they live long lives.
Yes.
Compared to human lives, and there's humans in your story too, I'm sure. You bring some of these minor characters forward and make them major characters. I take it those are humans?
Sometimes.
Okay.
The 2 characters that I brought forward from Nocturnal into Just Before Dawn, one in the first book, she was a rookie cop. She was still in uniform, still on patrol, and um, she sees the type of carnage that international drug cartels that are manned primarily by mercenaries can do.
Mm-hmm.
And it really shakes her. And the it really shakes her. It's one of those seminal moments that we all have in our lives where you can look at before that moment, you can look after that moment, and the 2 people are really not the same people anymore. You are fundamentally changed by
For sure.
that.
Yeah.
And I know I've had that happen several times over the course of my life. And I don't think I'm unique. So I thought it would be a good thing to use.
Absolutely. For sure.
So I bring her forward, and she's only in that one scene in the first book, but in this book, she's a whip smart, just crackerjack firecracker of a cop. She makes detective her first time at the exam.
Okay.
She damn near aces the exam, and she becomes in at least in my book, she becomes the youngest. She becomes the youngest detective in the history of the San Diego Police Department.
Okay.
She's only like, I don't think I mentioned her age, but in my head, she was only like 29, 30 maybe,
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
So almost still a kid.
Right. Sure.
But, she's got this history of, solid collars that led to convictions and a lot of felony jail time for her perps. And she scores outstanding on this exam. She's great on the physical fitness. She's such a good shot. She can basically shoot the eye out of a fly at 500 yards. That's how good she is. And so she's in there to kind of ruffle some feathers. She's
Well,
a
it's good to have
rather
a character like that. That's a powerful character.
she's vivacious.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun because there was just so much. Once I set her personality, it was just so much fun to drop her into certain situations and then just see what she was going to do. Because sometimes I didn't even know what she was going to do. It was like, well, let's see what she does. She'll tell me. All I have to do is write and try and keep up with her,
That's right.
And
Right.
yeah. And so that was fun. The other thing is the woman who made my vampire a vampire shows up in San Diego too. And she becomes the villain of the piece because while the police have been able to get my vampire to very reluctantly agree to help them track down a serial killer who is stalking San Diego's vampire goth nightclub scene.
Yeah.
And at first the vampire doesn't want to do it. He likes to keep the affairs of man at arm's length, you know. But when they show him how this guy is killing, he is deeply offended. It makes him angry. And he says, yeah, let us track this fellow down. One of the things about my vampire is he does not use curse words. He doesn't use harsh language. He does not use contractions on words. He has this very formal, stylized way of speaking. It's almost stilted, but it's because he grew up in the late 1800s.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And he was, after his father died, he was pretty much raised in a mob family where, you know, you always are showing respect and are always modulating what you say and this kind of thing. And it's just how he talks, and it doesn't mean anything to him. People, I always bring it out in a point where he's talking to someone in either one of the books, and they just go, you talk funny.
Yeah.
And he'll just look at him and light little tick of the head, and he'll cock an eyebrow and just go, really? I had not noticed. And then he'll just keep going with whatever's going on. So
Yeah.
little things like that
I like things
make
like
these books so much fun to write.
Yeah, it's very much character driven. You're deeply involved in your characters. You say you love your characters.
I love them, and sometimes I hate them. But I'm sure you've having been around show business a long time, you've heard of method actors, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
I happen to be one myself.
So you'll understand what I'm about to say. I am a method writer. Every book I start by creating my characters, and not just character sketches, full biographies, where they were born, when they were born, where they went to school, you know, everything about them. It's like I create like a Wikipedia page for each character, you know, because I have to know how they think, and why they think it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that their views are my own. You know, I'm not saying that.
Right.
But to them, what they think is reasonable or necessary, or what they do is reasonable or necessary. They are absolutely convinced that they are justified in what they're doing.
Makes total sense to do it that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Very smart.
believe it or not, I start with my villain, and then I start working on my hero. I'm always more interested in my villain and their motivation and their agenda. What are they trying to accomplish?
Well, you're setting up conflict at that point.
That's exactly what I'm doing, sir. I'm setting up conflict.
Yeah.
Because I have to be able to stretch that conflict across, 110, 120,000 words.
Yes.
That can be difficult to do, and there are days when I'm just pulling out what little is left of my hair, trying to figure stuff out. Yeah. But God, I love what I do. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Well, you retired, as you said, and you began
Yeah.
writing, I think you said 2016 or say somewhere around there.
Yes. 2017 was when I published Nocturnal, 2021 for Blood Red Moon, and Just Before Dawn is 2023. The book that I'm working on now, which is a sequel to Blood Red Moon, I'm hoping, because I'm trying a different approach to my writing discipline, I'm hoping to actually have that out next year in late 2024.
Okay. Well, these are good plans and they make sense.
Yeah.
You are an indie writer and a method writer too. That's
Yes.
very cool.
Yes.
But as an indie writer, do you have to spend some money, I guess, in editing or graphic design? How does that work for you?
Where I spend most of my money is in my my marketing and advertising. I work with a publicist who specializes in low budget horror, and he has access to websites and magazines that, you know, they're so big they wouldn't even give me the time of day, you know. But he can get in there and get press releases out about books. He can get press releases out about me. Uh, you know, he can get them to review the book, you know, that kind of stuff where
Good, good.
I would not be able to do that. On the editing, my my system thus far, and it seems to refine. I seem to add a layer with every book.
Yeah.
I have 3 beta readers who are, or you could call them editors. They're amateurs, they're not professional, but they are whip smart. They see stuff, they really concentrate, and they see stuff that I've missed.
Mm-hmm.
And I incorporate into my revisions and edits every single thing that they have found. Yeah, you misspelled this, you've got a typo here, you've got a
Right.
typo there.
Yeah.
And I go through all that, and then I run it again through my own spell checker. And when that spell checker and grammar checker comes out clean, absolutely nothing. In the past, including this book, that's when I have published.
Okay.
On the next book, I think I'm going to add another layer, which is after I get all that other stuff done, and I've done my edit, I've gotten all 3 of my beta readers
Notes.
and
Yeah.
put in all their stuff.
Yep.
And I got it to where it's totally 100% clean by my editing program. I'm going to send it out for one last look with a professional editor, someone I'm going to have to cough up dough for.
Right.
And at that point, I know I've got my story structure right. I know I've got all that stuff right. I just want another set of paid professional eyes to look for typos. I just need a proofer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add that to my, I guess, in movie terms, what you and I would call post-production.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be another level that I'm going to add to the post-production process.
Okay. But you sound like you fix it in pre, which is a great theory. I like that. I worked in post-production most of my life. So I used to say, well,
Yep.
you should fix that in pre, and you know, we
Yes,
wouldn't
you
have
should.
to. Yeah.
The reason
Yeah.
when we did Delirium back in 2005, it was this. I shot. Let me just tell you this. I shot a feature film, an 88-minute feature film in 9 days for $9,000. And I brought it in on time and on budget.
Good. Good.
Like I said, you know,
Yeah.
Roger Corman is my cinematic idol.
Cool.
You know, if you can do it fast, cheap, and under control, chances are you can make a living at it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like you're having a fun time.
oh, sure beats working for a living.
Absolutely.
And if I didn't do this for my money, I'd have to go out and get a job.
Mm.
And let me tell you, I had one of those one time, and I don't recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Career is better, but even that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Speaking of which, what are sales like for you overall?
Sales are good. You know, you hear about the statistics that the average indie author only sells maybe 150, 200 copies of their book over the entire life of that book. And because so many of us indies don't really understand, and we can't wrap our minds around the business aspects of it, I think that's probably true. And since my book was first published, I've sold over 7,000 copies.
Good.
And on Kindle Unlimited, for people watching who might not know what that is, it's a subscription service that you can subscribe to. I think it's like $16 a month or something.
Yeah.
But through your Kindle, you have access to every ebook that Amazon has to offer. Is like 3 million titles, you know,
Wow.
everything, all kinds of novels, you know, short stories, novellas, fiction, nonfiction, you know, poetry, classic works of literature, you know, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, Robert Louis Stevenson, Mary Shelley, you know, they're all there.
Yeah.
Shakespeare. Yeah. So anyway, what I have found is that in my sales, about 65 to 75% of my revenue actually comes from those Kindle Unlimited pages read, because on that, they don't pay you by the book. They pay you by the page that gets read. So even if someone starts reading your book and let's say they get bored with it, they move on to something else, it's not for them, or, you know, whatever the case may be, say they only get, you know, 20, 30 pages in, at least you're going to get paid for those 20 or 30 pages, you know. And
Interesting.
yeah, and the way it works out, I cranked a few numbers on it, and let's say your book is 350 pages, just as an example.
Okay.
For every 350 pages that gets read, as it turns out, your royalty is going to be close to the same amount of money that you would make if someone just bought the ebook and downloaded it. The royalty is just within a few pennies of being the same.
Mm-hmm.
Fine by me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
fine by me. As long as people are reading it and enjoying it, you know, that's to me, that's what it's all about.
Exactly. You get a chance to go out and do readings or at book fairs and things like that?
Yes, I do. I belong to a group, a writing group up here called CLAW, KLAW, Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers. And we get together a couple of times a month and talk about various aspects of publishing. We talk traditional publishing, we talk indie publishing, we talk all kinds of stuff, both on the creative end and on the business and legal end of it. And you'd be amazed at the number of people who have no idea about the business and legal end of it. And I see it and I just go, ooh, we need to train this one up, because this person's going to get taken advantage of if we don't, you know. So
Right.
the more seasoned of us look out for the less seasoned of us.
Very nice.
And we organize all kinds of things, big events, you know, events where, you know, it's not uncommon to sell, you know, 30, 40, 50 books a day, you know.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Wow.
we always go to the Kitsap County Fair here. It's up the road in Bremerton. I live in Port Orchard, and we have done readings in the past. Haven't done any just real recently, but well, I take that back. I read a passage from Just Before Dawn for a holiday, a Halloween holiday version for a local public access station up here.
Right. Cool.
So, yeah, do a little bit of that, and do interviews wherever I can get them.
Sure.
Let me tell you, I'll send out to every reviewer I have an email for. I will send out to every blogger that I have contact with, every podcaster. Um, you know, I will talk to anybody who is willing to talk to me.
Well, you've told
And
me all about your book and
yeah,
books, and that's pretty cool. Do you have a website?
I have an author's page on Amazon. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. So yeah, I try to plaster myself all over social media. I'm an easy guy to find.
Well, you seem like you're doing a good job at it, and I'm really happy for you.
Well, thank you.
And I wish you well with the next book and all the other books. And make sure that you contact me when you feel comfortable about talking about your fourth book, the fourth installment of this series.
Yes, the fourth book, the one I'm writing now, it's the second book in my werewolf trilogy. It's going to be called Alpha Male.
Okay.
And it's because of my screenwriting background, you'll appreciate this.
All right.
Because of my screenwriting background, I tend to write my books in 3 acts. I have a 3-act arc in the book. And with this trilogy, each book becomes an act in a larger overarching story from the first book into the third.
I can relate.
Yeah. Yeah, because that
sure.
as in Hollywood, it's drilled into your head from day one, 3-act structure, 3-act structure, 3-act structure.
Yeah.
Well, I just took that over to writing novels, and I also realized that even though I'm writing novels, I'm still writing films. I'm just showing you my films with words. Because the great thing about being a writer is I can paint with words.
Yeah.
I'm the
Exactly.
I'm the actors, I'm the producer, I'm the director, I'm the editor, I'm the cinematographer, I'm the lighting designer, I'm the sound designer, I'm the special effects coordinator, I'm the special effects makeup coordinator. I am everything. So, and that's actually, to some people that may be intimidating. I relish it.
Yeah.
Because for better or for worse, whether you like what I do or whether you despise it, for better or for worse, these are my novels.
Yeah.
My name is on there, so I've got to do the best I can, because when I'm hopefully much older, like in my 90s or approaching 100, where maybe I'm not writing anymore, maybe not writing. I want to be able to look back at the films I've been involved with and the books that I've written and go, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a body of work.
There's a body of work. There's your legacy. That's all.
Yes.
The word legacy.
And hopefully I'm going to be setting up, I have a will and all that stuff, but I'm going to be setting up an estate trust or a family trust.
Mm-hmm.
So that when these intellectual properties, and that's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
If these intellectual properties are continuing to make money, even after I have gone on to my, eternal reward, I want my family, I want my descendants to benefit from that,
Good.
If someone ever comes to them and says, hey, we want to buy the film and television rights to the Nocturnal
Right.
series,
Yeah.
that they will be the ones to benefit from that. My children and my grandchildren, I want them to be able to benefit from what
Well,
I've done.
yeah.
What better a legacy could I leave
Well,
behind
exactly.
than something that entertains, thousands, maybe even someday millions of people, entertains them, and that provides a certain level of financial security for my descendants.
Well, I've interviewed quite a few authors. Not one has ever mentioned that sort of thing, but makes sense. Totally makes sense. It's been
Yeah.
fascinating listening to you speak about your books and your dreams that you're making come true. You have to have a dream, Otherwise, how are you going to make your dreams come true? I think is how the song
Well,
goes.
well, yeah. I mean, I'm retired. I'm a 100% disabled vet. I'm 62 years old. And if I didn't do this, what reason would I have for rolling out of bed every morning? You have to have a mission. And for
Yeah.
me, it's like that, a military thing is
Yeah.
I must have a mission to complete. And I don't do well if I don't have a mission.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. That's what it is. And here's the beauty of it. You'll like this. I have so many unsold screenplays that if I ever run out of ideas for books, or if I just decide I want to do something different on the next novel, I can just pull one of my old screenplays and use the script as nothing more than a highly detailed outline, and then build a full novel around it. I mean, why not? I could be writing into my 90s.
Yeah.
As long as I have the physical and mental wherewithal to be able to sit in front of a laptop and work.
It may take you a little longer, but sure.
Yeah, it might take me a little longer. My word count per day might be less, but
Yeah.
So what?
It's a great life. It really is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we should wind down here and save any future talks for the next time you're on the show, which I look forward to.
Sure. Me too.
It's been fascinating listening to you describe your technique, your mindset, your whole philosophy behind writing as well. I share a lot of those similarities. I think the same way, and it was really cool listening to you say that. You've been a wonderful guest, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wish you well too. I wish you all the success in the world with the podcast, and I hope to see you again soon.
Oh, I'm sure we will. You take care of yourself now.
All righty. You too, man.
Thank you for watching. And before you go, if you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and don't forget to ring that bell for future notifications. You can even leave a comment. All of that really helps in recommending this channel to a larger audience. And if you are an author, I would love to speak with you about your book. Until next time, keep on writing and be kind to one another.